Hey everybody, Big Toad here and welcome to my studio. Today I'm going to do a demonstration on painting hills under a golden sky. It's a tonalist type painting and we're going to focus on the yellows and greens for that. So let's get started. Burnt sienna thinned down with mineral spirits is what I'm using to sketch in my painting. This is based off of a sketch I did in my sketchbook. I really didn't have any source material at all for this. I just, another one of those things where I just drew it. And so we'll see how this turns out. We're going to have a hill in the background and then a third hill in the background with trees and then a nice big rock up in the foreground. And this is going to be, like I said, a tonalist. So we're going to go in with some yellow and greens and stay within that tonal range. So putting in some darks, marking those out. And then I'm going to move to the sky. And we're going to use a yellow mixture. It has a little bit of yellow ochre, of course, some titanium white. And I use some cad yellow medium to lighten it up, to brighten up the chroma a little bit, to offset the yellow ochre. And so I'm just going to do the entire sky in with that color. And then I want to come back in and do some highlights. I'm going to take that and I'm going to massage that a little bit. I want the sky to be a little lighter in color. So I'm coming in, I'm mixing a little more titanium white and putting that into the sky. I want to have kind of a broken color type look just between shades of yellow. And now I mixed in some cad yellow medium to give a little glow to part of the sky. Not a lot, just some glow to it. Now, using yellow ochre and a little titanium white, coming in with a little darker mix than I have in the sky. I want to bring the I want to bring the chroma down. I don't want it to be as bright as that final in the sky, but I do want the value to be darker. Contrast with color and values and chroma is important. So I am using contrast to separate the hills in the back so that you can see where one hill starts and the other begins. Now moving forward to the next set of hills, coming in, this is all about contrast because the colors are staying kind of between that yellowish and the yellowish green colors that I'm after. So what separates is contrast and color. The values going darker and bringing in more chroma as I move forward to make them brighter. So just because they're darker doesn't mean they're not higher chroma and going to be brighter. So I will work in some colors, and I am I'm experimenting a little bit as I put these colors down. So some of that yellow ochre, you can see I'm leaning a little bit more towards the greens here. So I did bring in some ultramarine blue, which is going to cool off the colors a little bit. So they're not quite as warm as what's on the hills behind this in the sky. But it is darker, but it's not as warm. It's a little cooler. And that temperature, that coolness is going to help bring contrast and separation. And the lower part of the hills where it's going to meet the hills in front, I'm bringing in a little darker colors, trying to lighten that up while still creating contrast with some titanium white mixing that mixture. And again, so I brought blue into the yellows too that I had. I started with the yellow ochre and brought in some titanium white and some blue. Now again, I'm going darker yet again here, mixing in a little more ultramarine blue into my colors in order to get further along the green scale, but still kind of yellow. You can still sense the yellow in there. And now I can start bringing in some highlights in that with some brighter colors, bringing the chroma up now. See, so I'm still bringing the chroma up higher in this front. So I kind of dulled out the layer behind it, the hills behind it, and now I'm bringing the chroma back up more towards the green. So creating still separation and contrast with color, with value, and with chroma. And now I can create some texture within these hills with a little higher chroma and a little darker colors as well. And so I'm going to experiment, try to create shape using the brush strokes to help create shape as well as the colors. I want to bring in a really dark green now to kind of create a wall around the corners. I like to do that. As I mentioned, I'm many colors, but I don't want to get too dark on the right side. I do want to have the dark. I'm going to emphasize the dark a little more on the left because that ground's closer to me, is what we have on the left. That slope coming down is closer than the hill. Now I'm going in with some greens on the trees, and these are higher chroma. Again, I want to create some separation between the background and the hills they're on, and so I'm going to use some higher chroma. Still coming in with some nice dark greens and obviously darker greens, but still they're brighter in as well as being darker, so they got that higher chroma, and create some texture by adding in these 3 different colors. So basically I'm trying to model this after 3 colors, which the further something is, the closer those three colors need to be in value and chroma, but you don't have space to use more than 3. So a dark, a medium, and a bright. Now I'm bringing in, I want to get some more higher chroma in that middle hill. I recognize that I do need a little bit more chroma in that, and bring in some various colors to make the hill. I'm going to create shadowy effects around the hill and some of these trees. So now I'm using a little higher chroma, yellowish greens, to create depth and shape in that mid-ground area that I'm working on. Now I'm using ultramarine blue and yellow ochre to create a really nice dark, deep green to start the first layer of leaves on the 2 foreground trees. And now I've lightened that up a little bit with titanium white, coming a little lighter, and keeping the chroma high because this will be the foreground area, so I want this chroma high. And I keep lighting it up. I've added a little bit of cad yellow in it, cad yellow light, and I'm going to come in soon with a little bit of cad yellow medium. I see an opportunity to use that same color on the grass in the foreground to start breaking it up and giving some life and vitality to it there. So dark brown here mixed with ultramarine blue and burnt sienna, and I lightened it up a little bit with some titanium white. I'm going to use that color, a little lighter version of it though, on the trunks in the background. Throw some twigs up in the trees, and now I'm going to put the bases on those other trees on the other side. Throw a few little twigs in there left and right. Now I'm going to bring in a lighter brown, and I'm leaning it more towards yellow. You can see there the cad yellow light is in that brown in order to keep it into the tonal range of the yellowish greens. So I did break the tonal pattern in the trunk, but adding those highlights in that yellowish green in order to pull it back in and align it more, creating some small twigs up in the trees as well to give some reality to it. Just simple little rigger brush to do a little bit of work there. And I want to bring in some more lighter and brighter colors there again. So a bright greenish, a bright pale green. So it's a high chroma green, but it is thinned down quite a bit, so I don't overpower the trunk. And I'm using impasto, so I'm kind of mixing it right there as I go, so I get a more natural looking bark on that tree. And bringing in some cad yellow light. I believe I just dipped just a corner of that brush into it, so I could just bring a little more highlights into that. on the yellow side of things to keep with the yellowish hues I'm using. Now the rock, I of course had to use titanium white and ultramarine blue, and then I offset that with kind of a mixture of violet purplish color to gray it out. And so I'm putting that rock in with the various grays, a dark gray, a medium gray, and a light gray, and so almost black there at the bottom of that to bring in some, again, to trap that eye into the painting is what I'm after with that. And I take advantage of that dark, it's a dark green now. I lean it towards the green a little bit in order to put some highlights on those hills in the background. So I do want to bring the chroma down in the corners, but I want to introduce higher chroma on that slope where the trees are. I'm working on there. You can see I'm bringing in a little higher chroma, a little brighter colors there, lighter colors in the greens and the yellow spectrum. So I'm trying to do this whole painting, staying in that as much as possible, with the exceptions being the tree trunks and the rock in the foreground there. Now using that little rigger, flicking that up as I've done in the past, I load the brush with thin down color and I flick it up when I lay that rigger down. Now I went in with a brighter green for the trees using a small flat, and now I'm using the rigger to put a few little brighter highlights into those hills, give some chroma there, but not everywhere. I just want to put chroma on the tops of those hills in order to reflect some of that sunlight coming down, that yellowish sky color. Again, it pulls this whole thing together, keeping it in that range of yellowish greens, and bringing in a little darker color there, and just kind of massaging these little grasses here and there, trying to get a look I like. I'm going to put some dark grass in right down in the foreground to create depth, and I'm going to use that same dark, which is the ultramarine blue and burnt sienna, and I did introduce some yellows to kind of lean it a little towards green, but that gives me depth around those trees as well, and create a little hill there with some black and dark grasses on, again creating depth. And it also holds the eye from dropping too far down the painting and coming off the bottom. And introduced a little bit of higher chroma greens there, right there in front of that dark grass I put in. Now I'm putting darker grasses base of the trees and in strategic locations to create depth in the painting. I'm coming in with a really cool bluish green to create little shadows for those trees. Use the rigger brush so I could be selective, and I'm going to use that same color to create little shadows of the bigger trees in the foreground. And you did see I tapped a little bit into the rock as well. And going to go with a darker green. I don't want to go too dark up there because it's but I wanted to get a darker green to again create contrast of some grasses growing up between this foreground and the midground behind it. And then I can come in with a light green, see, and create depth in front of that as well. So I'm layering in patches of grass so that I can paint in a little easily, flick up the brush or run the rigger up to create various grass patterns, cut in a little bit to that dark, which again creates depth and still serves the purpose of holding the eye into the painting. Again, working in some small grasses. That's a very simple, quick technique to use. Okay, I'm going to emphasize some of that really dark, rich color in the corners and along the bottom to really hold, and I can come back in and put some shadow in those trees as well, building a nice little contrast and making those trees pop out. See, that dark just makes those trees come more alive and pop out for us, because it creates such a great contrast between that and the lighter yellows and greens in the background. And you can see here I am using the rigger brush to kind of put some of those details in as well. Coming back in, adding some more higher chroma up on the top of that hill with that little small flat brush that I enjoy using for this delicate work, and trying to create some breakup of the hills so that they're just not solid greens. Give a little bit of life and shape and movement to the painting. I don't want to overemphasize the hills though, because I want to keep the focus up on the main trees in the front and the two patches of trees in the background. So just adding in some various shades of green to create texture in my mid-ground area there. I wanted to soften up the shadow for those trees on the left there, so I brought in a little lighter shade of green into those to break that up a little bit. The illusion of sky holes or something. Getting a little light. Again, working on the hills, making some adjustments in the chroma and the values in order to have them stand out appropriately. And now signing in my name here. So it looks like we're about done with this painting. I hope you enjoyed this. I'm going to do another one on this same kind of color pattern coming up next. So thanks for joining me. Hope you learned something. And for now, this is the Big Toad, and I am out.